Honkai Star Rail is coming up on its 1-year anniversary in just a short few months, and in that time there have been a lot of new characters added into the game. Naturally, because it's a gacha game, the banners to get these characters are limited. This can lead to many free-to-play players, myself included, having to decide between which banners are most beneficial. Thankfully, if you miss out on a character, you'll have another opportunity when their rerun arrives. With the launch of version 1.4, we got our first ever rerun banner in Honkai Star Rail for the first ever limited 5-star character, Sela. This seems like as good a time as ever to talk about which of the rerun banners you should summon for, and just how great these characters can be. This is completely opinionated, of course, since every character in Honkai Star Rail can be viable, and I do mean any. With enough investment and time, you can make every character in the game into a great addition to your account. The characters that I mention here will differ for you depending on what your account is in need of, your pity level, and what playstyle you enjoy. These are just some that I think new players hopping into the game should heavily consider, and some personal ones that I myself will be summoning for. The first character I want to talk about is also the one we'll be getting the most soon, and by that I mean literally a day from the recording of this video. Of course, I'm referring to none other than the best debuffer in Honkai Star Rail, Silverwolf. Aside from being one of the coolest Stellaron hunters that we've been introduced to so far, she has quite the reputation of being an amazing nihility debuffer. Silverwolf's talent debuff has the potential to lower enemies' attack, defense, or speed, and for 3 turns at that. This can be very helpful against elite enemies, causing them to be less of a threat and for your team to have the advantage. Her skill can also reduce the resistance and apply a weakness on an enemy of a random element type in your team composition. This can be a little frustrating if you're running her with multiple elements and are aiming for a specific type of weakness. However, with the introduction of Fu Xuan and Lynx in version 1.3, this problem can be solved. This is where one of her strongest team comps came to be, Mono Quantum. Not having to roll the dice anymore, you can guarantee that an enemy will have a weakness to Quantum added to them, which allows characters like Sela or Qingche to absolutely obliterate them. If this wasn't enough, her ultimate decreases a target enemy's defense by up to 45% for 3 turns, while also dealing 380% of her attack once they are maxed out. Her kit is single target, but makes her arguably the best support character in Honkai Star Rail, at least for debuffing enemies. You might want to consider someone like Pela though when it comes to an AoE setting. Even though Silverwolf plays well with other quantum elements, that doesn't mean she can't do great with other typings as well. She can be fit into any team since her defense shredding ability and elemental resistance can help the damage of any DPS character. There are, however, a few downsides that come with Silverwolf that you'll want to keep in mind. The first of which being she does need a good amount of investment to be a consistent support, most notably in the effect hit rate category. You want upwards of 80 to 96% EHR on her to be able to guarantee some of her debuffs, especially in Memory of Chaos. She does get 18% total from her traces, but you'll need a pretty solid build and light cone to reach those thresholds. This is where she can be a bit of a bummer, as her 2 best light cones are not easy to come by. The first is her signature light cone, Incessant Rain, which can give you anywhere from 24 to 40 effect hit rate while also increasing her damage output and debuff effectiveness. This is an extremely good light cone for her, but at S1, it's surprisingly not her best in slot. Silverwolf's best light cone is S5 before the tutorial mission starts, which offers 40% effect hit rate and helps with energy regeneration. The major downside, however, is that this light cone was only given away through the Star Hunt game event that took place in version 1.1. There is no other way of getting this at the time of this video, which sucks since it's one of the best free-to-play light cones in the game. The last option that you can try if you don't have the others isn't that bad for her, but it won't offer any effect hit rate. Resolution shines as Pearls of Sweat is Luca's light cone, which has an effect called Ensnared. This causes enemies' defense to decrease up to 16% for 1 turn, which can be useful with Silverwolf's other debuff capability. If you're able to get a solid build on her, which has a lot of EHR, then this shouldn't be that much of a setback. Overall, Silverwolf is an amazing character, and her banner returns for the first time tomorrow. I could say that I'm definitely hyped to get her, and I know she'll be a valuable asset to my account. The next character I'll be talking about just so happens to be another Nihility path, but their playstyles couldn't be more different. Coming in at number 2 is the Lightning DOT Queen, Kafka. Where do I even start with Kafka, to be honest? She's the badass Stellaron hunter who loves coats and has one of the spiciest 4-star light codes in the game. The whole community loves her and was already planning on getting her before Star Rail was even released. I'm definitely included in that since after Sela, I waited 2 whole versions to get my chance at a guaranteed Kafka. I can for sure say that I don't regret this decision, as Kafka has transformed how I tackle a lot of bosses in Star Rail, especially in Simulated Universe. Kafka is unique because she's the only 5-star dot character in the game. I think this makes her an absolute must-have, especially considering how amazing damage over time teams can be in Honkai Star Rail. There are no shortage of amazing 4-star dot characters, but Kafka makes these teams so much better. She has an exceptional AoE kit that can allow her to destroy the electric weakness of enemies and deal a lot of damage on top of it. Kafka especially pairs well with other characters that apply dots since she's able to detonate them with her skill, and this deals up to 75% of the original damage of each dot. She literally sets off the fireworks and her ult is just as amazing. Kafka's ultimate can do up to 80% of her attack to all enemies and applies shock on them for 2 turns, while also instantly taking up to 290% of Kafka's attack on the said shock. Her talent also allows her to apply shock when doing a follow-up attack after another team member uses a basic attack, but she can only do this once per turn. Kafka really is the queen of damage over time, as she can increase the damage of a team with her in it by so much. The only downsides that I can think of are that she does have a pretty high investment threshold to really shine. For starters, she is a Nihility character, so of course she wants some effect hit rate, but thankfully nowhere near as much as Silverwolf. The real difficulty comes in the form of maintaining a balance between speed and attack, which she needs a high amount of both. This is even more apparent with the introduction of her best in slot planar ornament set, which was just released in this version of Honkai Star Rail. The good news is you can use a variety of light cones on her, so it isn't as strict as with Silverwolf. The dot playstyle is really fun as well, since you get to see all of those colorful damage numbers. I highly recommend Kafka if you don't have her already, and have videos showcasing her on my channel if you're interested. The next character up on the list is a personal favorite of mine and absolutely blew away the Star Rail community when he dropped. Coming in at number 3 is Dragon Master himself, Dan Heng in Biber de Lune. This character is at the very top of the DPS category in Honkai Star Rail and is highly sought after. He's a literal god that is capable of dealing massive amounts of damage to enemies, especially those who have a weakness to imaginary. Biber de Lune belongs to the destruction category, which is good in a lot of different scenarios. They usually have some drawbacks to account for their amazing strength, and this is the case for this version of Dan Heng. His main damage comes in the form of his basic attacks, but most notably his enhanced basic attacks. Biber de Lune's skill can enhance his basic attack up to 3 times with the cost of 3 skill points respectively. Once his basic attack is at level 3, he can do up to 500% of his attack at a max trace level, while also dealing 180% to adjacent enemies. This is crazy amounts of AoE damage and can break imaginary weakness enemies with ease. 3 skill points can be a lot to ask for just one character, but he is able to gain stacks that count as skill points in their place. He can hold up to 3 of these stacks in reserve at a time, and he gains 2 whenever he uses his ultimate. This paired with a skill point efficient team means that you can have 100% uptime of his max enhanced basic attack. His playstyle does have a high skill ceiling, and you'll have to be strategic with his skill point usage to play him effectively. Once you do have him mastered, however, he's one of the strongest characters in the game. You'll definitely want to prioritize crit rate and crit damage on him to make him very strong, but he needs a decent amount of speed and attack as well. His best in slot planar ornament set in particular has a high crit rate requirement to activate its benefits. He has a really solid free-to-play 5-star light cone from Simulated Universe, which can be good enough. And Biber de Lune is definitely a character whose build you don't want to skimp on to unleash his maximum potential. I was very fortunate to get this guy on my account with none other than his signature weapon as well. If you're looking for an amazing damage dealer that can carry you through the endgame of Honkai Star Rail, then Biber de Lune can be the character for you. Number 4 on my list is a little different from the other characters I've talked about so far, This time we're taking a look at the beautiful Master Diviner Fu Xuan. Unlike the previous entries, this character doesn't focus on damage, but quite the opposite, as she fits a tank role. Fu Xuan is a preservation path unit that excels in sustaining your team from immense amounts of damage, while also offering buffs and heals to the team. She is, in my opinion, one of the most important characters to look for, as she can make the endgame of Honkai Star Rail so much simpler for you. Once you have a Fu Xuan on your account, you'll find yourself being able to deal with tougher bosses with ease and not having to worry about your team being so fragile. Fu Xuan has the highest base HP in the game currently, which is important since she scales off of HP for her kit. She provides a 65% damage reduction buff to the whole team with her skill and improves their HP by 6% and crit rate by 12%. If that wasn't enough already, Fu Xuan's talent offers an additional 18% damage reduction at max trace level and allows her to heal herself when she falls underneath 50% health. She can heal herself up to 90% of her max HP this way by using stacks that she saves up by using her ultimate. Not only does she offer so much damage reduction to the whole team, but most of the damage actually goes towards Fu Xuan's HP, whether she was attacked or not. I can't stress enough how much sustain this character adds to your account, and she can be used in virtually every team. One of the things that I like about her the most is that she offers crowd control resistance as well. That means you won't have to worry about those pesky freezes or sealing enemies as often, which can be very clutch, especially against bosses like Cocolia. The only catch with Fu Xuan falls on how efficient the player is at using her skill points and keeping her shield up constantly. If you forget to pop her shield and get sealed on her, for instance, it can be pretty bad, as your team won't have the sustainability anymore. Thankfully, with time, you'll understand how to play her effectively with your other characters. Building Fu Xuan is relatively straightforward, as you want a defense and HP heavy build with some speed as well. You really want to focus on a high HP stat to make sure she can have survivability, so anywhere from 6500 to 8000 HP is a good threshold to meet. This isn't as hard as it sounds though, since Fu Xuan does offer 18% with her max traces. One of her best relic sets, Longevious Disciple, increases the max HP by 12%, and you can pair this well with other 2-piece sets like Messenger Traversing Hackerspace or Guard of Withering Snow. I personally run my Fu Xuan with Messenger as her other 2-piece set, but that's because the speed buff she gets from it is more beneficial for me since I have her on HP boots instead of speed ones. For planet ornaments, you'll still want to focus on HP, and Fleet of the Ageless has you covered here, but you can also use Broken Keel for the effect resistance and crit damage buff to your team. Fu Xuan is also very lenient on light cones, as one of her best ones is a free-to-play light cone from Simulated Universe. Ever since I got Fu Xuan, I've had a lot less resets and could focus more on other builds since I wouldn't die as easily. There are a lot of amazing shield characters in Honkai Star Rail, but Fu Xuan is so much more than that, and I think everyone should try to get their hands on at least one of her. The last character I'll be talking about today is the most recent one to be released and is one of the most broken to be added in Honkai Star Rail. I'm referring, of course, to the ice cold destruction character, Jingli. This is probably the unit that I regret not getting the most. At the time, I had been saving for Topaz, but since I didn't get her, in hindsight, I wish I would have summoned for Jingli instead. This character is absolutely broken, and if you thought Imbiber Lune was overpowered, then get ready, since Jingli is just as incredible. Her kit allows her to output amazing ice damage and move at lightning quick speeds by advancing her action forward. Whenever she has 2 stacks of her talent, which she can obtain by attacking with her skill or ultimate, she'll undergo her enhanced state. Not only does she have the aforementioned action advance, but also gets a big damage increase, and her crit rate increases by 50% at max trace level. The drawback, however, is that she draws HP from your other teammates equal to 4%, but then has her attack increased based on the total HP taken. It can't be understated just how strong she is in this state, and it makes her deal broken amounts of damage. This is the only time outside of her ult that she deals damage to more than one enemy, but her single target damage is also very strong. Jingli has some amazing trace boosts as well, and once maxed out, she gets 37% crit damage, 9 speed, and 10% HP. Then she gets so much crit rate from her talent, you can build as much crit damage as you want while still having a solid build. With this said, she still needs high investment, which can take you a while. Thankfully, her best relic sets have been in the game for quite a long time actually, those being Hunt Hunter of Glacial Forest, and Genius of Brilliant Stars. The ice damage set here makes sense, but surprisingly, she works well with a quantum set as well. Genius of Brilliant Stars, of course, works best against quantum weakness enemies, and can be paired well with someone like Pela or Silverwolf since the 4-piece relic set offers defense ignoring. Similarly to Imbiber de Lune, you can use the free-to-play light cone on the fall of an Eon for her if you don't have her signature one. Jingli is one of the most amazing DPS characters to be added in Honkai Star Rail, and might even be the strongest outright when she's maxed out. Then again, I might be biased since the only time I've ever used her was as a support character at E6 S5 with high investment. I feel like I have the least amount to say about her compared to other characters on this list since she's just so great that the incentive to summon for her is so blatant. I'm looking forward to her banner rerun and will be definitely trying to get her. That's gonna do it for my top 5 rerun characters that you should summon for in the upcoming versions of Honkai Star Rail. As I said at the beginning of this video, this is completely up to you, as your account needs can differ greatly from someone else. You might even just like the look and personality of one character over another and summon for them instead. One more thing to take into consideration is that the future banners are unknown. We could easily get new characters alongside these old ones that are way better. Take into consideration what typing and path benefits you more and then summon for whoever you want. I do feel confident with the list I put together though, as I get a lot of comments asking me if they should try to get a character or not. Even if you get just one of the many that I mentioned, you'll be well on your way to building a solid account that can handle the endgame. I'm excited to jump into the second half of version 1.5 today, and we'll be making content for Silverwolf for sure. If you're fortunate enough to get her as well, then be on the lookout for my showcase with her. Hope y'all enjoyed this. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you all in the next video.